This match review comes to us from JCX-750, who has played 2,100 hours in the game of Dead by Daylight, which is double the amount I expect you to usually know your fundamentals in the game of Dead by Daylight. So your chases should be relatively short. You should be having a good sense of macro in terms of defending your gens, that sort of thing. You're playing the Xenomorph, which is probably in the best state they have been in since their release, with a bunch of quality of life updates and only one minor nerf to the windup. Usually most people place them mid B, high B. I think they're high B tier, but that's for people that main them, or secondary them, people who understand the character very well. You're on Dead Dog, which is usually a pretty all right map for the Xenomorph. The problem is that the main building is an infinite if run correctly. So like if they don't run the infinite, this is an amazing map for you. But once the moment they start hitting the infinite, like, it kind of just like depends on if the survivors you are facing know that or not. So yeah, let's take a look at your add-ons. Voice. Okay, so you are using very unorthodox add-ons that are very interesting. So you're using Kane's helmet, which survivors suffer from mangled when being hit by the tail attack for 70 seconds, which is a fairly okay add-on, and I would only rate it okay. Mangled as a stat effect overall, it's been kind of like nerfed over time in DBD whenever it got timed, so this includes the add-ons. So this is an okay pick. It kind of synergizes better if you're using like an anti-heal build, but if you're not, then it's kind of not. It's just run raw. Possibly you run Parker's Headband, which is this gives 5% haste when you exit a control station for 3 seconds. Parker's Headband is okay, but it needs to be run with something else stronger, like Harpoon Gun or something like that, to truly get value of that. Even Molted Skin, if you pair this with Molted Skin, you can pop out of a control station, speed up on the person that just dropped the flame turret, start that chase with them. They don't, and then they're exhausted because of Molted Skin. But Kane's helmet is not one of the add-ons that's really good to pair Parker's Headband with. These feel kind of like, I don't mean to say any offense, this feels kind of like just like random add-on picks. These don't feel like these were made with intent. Let's go ahead and talk about different alternatives, which is going to be the first match review we've had for Xenomorph with the brand new add-ons. So my recommendations are going to be different. The one thing that's not going to be different is Lambert Star Map, which is objectively the best Xenomorph add-on now. This reduces the range of flame turrets from 10 meters down to 8. This is your one-stop shop for dealing with flame turrets. The name of the game with the Xenomorph is to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible, and this is now the best add-on bar none to deal with that. So this is still going to be the number one recommendation for if you are playing Xenomorph, is to run a Lambert Star Map. Usually this is where I tell you to also run Self-Destruct Bolt, which is still an excellent pick. Self-Destruct Bolt is you vault through windows 30% faster while in crawler mode. Xenomorph is already very, very good at dealing with windows, but some shack windows are pretty rough. You're looking at one right here on Dead Dog before the breakable wall is broken. There's some main building windows that are pretty rough, like Mother's Dwelling, Garden of Joy. So having that little extra oomph in your vault is very, very nice to catch up quicker, so they don't abuse really, really strong window loops like that. Also, this pairs really well with like BAM, Dark Arrogance, Superior Anatomy, Fire Up, lots of wonderful stuff. Some extra suggestions that are brand new. You could run Harpoon Gun. Harpoon Gun is after you hit a survivor, within 30 seconds of leaving a control station, everybody outside of 16 meters screams and reveals their location. And the important thing about this is anytime you hit anybody within that 30 seconds. So you essentially get a free info perk just as an add-on. Every time you come out of a control station, you hit somebody within 30 seconds, you get screams, which interrupt people from whatever they're doing, which synergizes well with perks like Dead Man Switch. But also gives you generally good info on where people are, helps you find rats, people that are hiding nearby, going for a Sabo or flashlight. Very good add-on now. And surprisingly, the next amazing add-on pick you could pick here is Molten Skin, which used to be the Xenomorph's worst add-on in the game, which is now one of its better ones, because this is after you deploy a remote flame turret. The survivor is exhausted for 30 seconds. Exhaustion is obviously one of the most meta and difficult things to handle when it comes to playing survivor or playing killer against survivors, is that exhaustion perks are really, really strong and by often a lot of distance for relatively no input. This shuts them down because either you choose to not set up the flame turret, which obviously makes you really, really good with your tail attack and keeps you in your crawler mode, or they choose to sit down the turret, which makes them exhausted for a really long time, which you can capitalize on. Those of you who are probably noticing the emergency helmet is missing here. Emergency helmet is still a great pick. I consider it still like a top 5 pick, but it's probably the 5 in the top 5, if not like 4 or 5. Now emergency helmet only increases your resistance to flame turrets by 15%. It's still a good pick. You're not picking a bad add-on by picking emergency helmet, but these other perks, or these other add-ons rather, will get you far more bang for your buck than emergency helmet now. So yeah, in terms of your build is kind of over the top. You're running 3 slowdown and no way out. This is something that I would expect somebody to run when wind streaking. It's a little much. Dead Man's is an excellent pick. It's a very good synergy perk on Xenomorph. It synergizes well with your base kit because often you'll be popping out of your control station and pushing somebody off a gen, which guarantees value. Also add-ons like Harpoon Gun also synergize well with this as well. You will have synergy between Harpoon Gun Parker's Headband and Dead Man's, but it's not a great deal. Deadlock and Corrupt are kind of like safe choices, but they're not super great. I think I have Corrupt and Deadlock in the A tier in the Xenomorph guide. They're okay. It's just like these are perks that are like Corrupt. It's like you're a character that's really good. You have a very good early game because that's what Corrupt's point in the game is to like help you have a good early game and slow down the survivors. But you with the tunnels and your tail attack usually have a good early game because you find somebody relatively quickly, you get on them, you have a quick down early in the game, which kind of why I don't put Corrupt in S tier for Xenomorph. Like most characters, Corrupt's just always a great choice. Xenomorph I'd put it like a little bit lower because of that. So I think just overall, I think it's not a bad build, but I think it's a little much. So wish I had this whole conversation on YouTube. I do put besides just like stopping and like saying something like, hi, welcome in or something like that. I do put the whole conversation on YouTube. I don't cut it up very much. Okay, when you're doing this, like, yeah, so with this scenario, I was like, what was going on? But I skipped ahead by accident. That was what happened. Oopsies. So in this scenario, you had 0 inkling that anybody was here. While you're in the tunnels, you get 60 meters of sound reading and footstep reading. So you can see their footsteps when they're moving around unless they're crouched or holding a turret or hindered for any reason, which is a funny thing. And you can also hear them if they're making any sort of action. They're healing, they're injured, they're working on a gen. You can hear all that. So you had 0 inkling that anything like that was happening, but you just popped up anyways. While it's not a bad idea all the time to kind of just pop out and just see if somebody was like ratting here or something with the 60 meters of killer instinct that you get when you exit a control station, it's generally just a time waster if you have like no idea if anybody's there. It's just like a shot in the dark, so it is kind of inefficient to just kind of like pop up check for like no reason. Oh, this is where I'm so confused earlier. That was so funny. Destroy it. Oh. Hey, Jimster. How's your girlfriend? How are you? You definitely should have hit that. I think you hit way too low. Hopefully your Monday should do well. I like your choice to... Things went a little bit wrong there, so you just went right back in the tunnel, got your power right back, and just decided to chase somebody else. That's the right play there. Okay. You have a relatively quick down here. I like that choice to go for this person instead. Make sure you break that before you're even in a situation where you have to deal with it. I wouldn't really break this. I usually wouldn't break that break wall. I broke this earlier when I was playing Nemi and like there was like 1 person left or 2 people left. But usually I don't break that door because this main building, like I was talking about with Dead Dog, is like insane for Survivor. Even when they're not running the Infinite, it's still fairly good and fairly hard to deal with for Killer. And obviously that will give them more access to the infinite. So breaking that breakable wall will give them more access to come in here and loop this part. Because like Dead Dog, essentially for the most part, it's a very small map and a very like okay map. It's very like middle of the pack when it comes to resources available for Survivor. So as long as you're not constantly letting people loop the main building, it's fairly okay because of its small size and the underwhelming loops. But if you're breaking the breakable wall to give them more access to like a potential infinite, I can't recommend that. You're just a little late there. I don't even know if you could have gotten that, because by the time you had gotten close enough to be in range for that, you probably made it through. I will say as well, the Gallows gen and the main building gen, which is the ones they're working on now, are gens that they should realistically be saving for later in the match. And they should be doing that because those gens are safer to do. Because one is obviously at that main building, which I just gassed up for a while. And this one, the Gallows, is a little safer because you can see from farther when people are coming. If you have balance, you can just fly off of it. Life, you can fall at the window that's over there and get away. So these two gens are safer. So the fact that they're doing them first is actually a bad thing. I would not invest a whole lot of time in trying to defend these. Yeah, didn't go up here. Unless you intentionally left him for some reason, which I'm not sure why you would do that. Hi, Trix. How are you? I don't know what he's doing. You could have had that, but you flicked it a little too hard. We're on controller, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Good job. A little bit, that's good. I know you have that date thing tomorrow. I'd be second you go on that not feeling well. I like how you're getting into your tunnel after everything. That's a thing. That's a skill I don't see a lot of people do. It's just they're afraid to be in their tunnels more, which is goofy. You should just kind of kick it and go back. Interesting. I'll feel shame in going back to Hook if everybody's kind of playing a little bit more stealthy. It's not your job to like babysit them. Yeah, I would say it's not your job to babysit them playing a little bit more immersed. Just go back to Hook. That was some lag. That was not the normal windup. I think you may have had some packet loss there. That took like way too long. What am I going to say, chat? You say this every Monday. Every Monday. At least one of these. Every Monday that there is a Xenomorph match review. You say this one. The purpose of playing the Xenomorph is to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible. That is the #1 directive of the Xenomorph, because that gives you your access to your tail attack. So you should break your turrets as soon as possible. It's okay sometimes to, hey, if I can run through this turret and still get the down before we run back through the turret, I can see that. That's an acquired skill that you can learn over time. But generally, it's better to break them ASAP. So what you did there is, despite the fact that because there's a pallet here, you weren't going to get this M1, you chose to get burned out of your power instead of just dealing with the turret. Realistically, what would have happened here instead, if you had chosen to break the turret and keep your power here, is that you break the turret, he makes this pallet, he's stuck at the pallet, and you can tail attack over and hit him. And this chase would be over. But now you are 115 Lizard with Hand, who can do nothing about this situation. And now he's just going to loop you here for a while. Please make sure you are breaking your turrets. This is the #1 thing that I see Xenomorphs do poorly, is they just barrel through turrets, they think they'll be fine, and in fact will not be fine, and it costs them matches. Crispy's alien tech not good. That's funny. Good to see you, Augustus. Standing Xeno bad. Roll Xeno good. Stay crawl Xeno. Perfectly put. Very eloquently put, Orb. Why are there 3 here? Why are there 3 in here? What is going on? You only ever need 2 in one area. You don't need 3. Double turrets are good not because of the fact that there's 2 turrets applying flames. It's just that it's sustained charges. So the Xenomorph does not have enough charges in their crawler mode to break one, stop, and then break the other before getting broken out. It only applies 1 stream of flame at a time. Hey Shadow, how are you? Good call out on that. No, yeah, that's a bug that's been there for a while, Jaffin. That's a bug that's been there in a while. That's in the guide in the bug section. That's never been fixed either. Been a thing for a while. Yeah, because like here's the difference, right? Because you just now did chase with him around. You just picked him up at 453. You chased this guy in about here for a little bit over a minute here, which is already over the average amount of chase time. Average chase time DBD should be 30 to 40 seconds. If it gets over a minute, you should think about leaving. You could have had him dead in the first like 30 seconds of this chase if you had just broken this turret right at this pallet. But because you were stubborn, this ended up being like a 1.5-minute chase instead. Really? I didn't know it was possible for Koniki to have rooms that are extremely rough. Interesting. I guess if you're on the event with guns going faster, I can kind of see that. Any Google reviews? We had one last week. I don't think there's any this week. Games have always been back and forth? I wonder what you're missing then. There definitely shouldn't be. David just sitting there watching. If you're in a situation, there's this thing called that's in like my Xenomorph starting tips called the take the pallet tech. So what you do here is you try to like bait her to drop the pallet, and when she counter baits you and calls your bluff, you just kind of stand there and accidentally throw the tail attack anyways. So in my starting tips for Xenomorph, there's this thing called the take the pallet tech. So what you do is you throw your tail attack here regardless of what you think she's going to do, and then you just W key your body while you're tail attacking through the pallet. If you do it perfectly, you'll end up in a position where the Xenomorph's body is so far through a pallet that even if she fakes you out there and comes back, she does not have the prompt. So either she gets hit by the tail attack in the drop in the dropping animation, or she chooses to fake it, but she can't come back to the pallet anyways because you've blocked it. So try doing that at situations like these. That's rough. It is a very, very finicky timing. Like, this would be a good time to explain this because a lot of people don't understand this. So you just got, you're just now getting the under the effect of the flame turret. And people want to swing like really early with the new base charges. Oh god, that's very loud. Like realistically, you want to swing like right about here. You swing like a couple seconds too early, or right about here. So if you need a visualizer on when should I swing to break a turret with the new base charges, this person swings early because they wait for what? Like a half a second before starting to swing. You got to get like way closer, like right about here, and then you can break it. It is very, very finicky. It's a very, very narrow window to break those. It's something that can be learned with practice, but it is an extremely narrow window. Good Megan. Thank you as well. I wonder what you're missing then. Because you definitely shouldn't be struggling that much with. That'd be like being like, oh well, I actually do pretty bad on White and Nurse. I'd be like, why? I'd be like, wonder what the deal is. I mean, that doesn't work, Augustus. That's incorrect. Breaking line of sight doesn't matter because a lot of the time he'll be able to just like hit you around the corner anyways. Breaking line of sight doesn't fix it. I've heard people say that, but it's just wrong, unfortunately. We faced like a couple of them today. And even when we get behind an object, sometimes we'd still get clocked. So relaxing? Yeah, it's been stormy here too. It worked for me? Just because it's worked for you doesn't mean it's a good advice. Because that's entirely based on like your MMR, the people you're specifically facing in your region. Doesn't make it inherently true. I got it through the sprint burst, nice. See, I don't get the choice to chase David here, because I guess you're wanting him for your stack of No Way Out, but that's not worth it right now when like you have no pressure on David, but like you have pressure on everybody else. It doesn't make sense to go chasing him in a main. Good, you're leaving him. I saw you think about it. That scared me. Don't pick value of perks over the victory in the game. You can shoot through this, by the way. Probably on console, that'd probably be really, really hard on controller. But you can't shoot through that right there. It's actually better to vault through that if you're trying to save time going around this loop. You shoot over this too. It's again far harder on console than it is on PC. At least there'll be mouse and keyboard support for nice, good shot. Mouse and keyboard support for console soon. I will. You want a match review with us? Oh. What do you think? What do you think? Is that a good vault? Yes, no? What do you think about the Dwight? Okay, good call out on the drop down. What do you think? Good call out on the drop down? Good call out on the drop down? I think it was good. You gonna streak on Xeno again at some point? If somebody takes my record, probably. Otherwise, probably not. I think while I'm generally enjoyed my time win streaking, I think the kind of like culture around win streaking and stuff is just kind of like not my vibe, to be honest. I do not, Jathan. I've not owned a PS4 in years. If you mark your control stations, it shows you the fastest route to them. It's like a little GPS. She got greedy for that. You seem to like dip out of chase a lot for split pressure, and I think you would be better off playing somebody like Wraith if you're gonna play a playstyle like that, or Legion. You know, you're really into like split pressuring. Not sure. You could have tail deck there. There you go. Full AB had the right idea. Got people in lockers? Yes, it does, Fallen. Yes, it is. I think you just left chase a lot this game. Why break it? It's literally sitting there doing nothing. If they don't repair it, it'll eventually pop on its own, but like still. Oh yeah, it's gonna come touch here. Honestly, this is why I don't mean to say offense to the submitter here, but like this is why I don't recommend people to run like 3 slowdown all the time, because like right now your perks win you the game. Like if you had played a different build here, you wouldn't have won this. Like your perks are only things that saved you here. Oh, David brought you here. He was okay. He had engineer's toolbox. And then he had a half. What the heck? That was weird. Weird. Right. So, in terms of your main takeaways for this match, there's some ones that are pretty crucial that I'm sure will come. It's not a surprise to anybody. They're things that happen a lot in Xenomorph matches, and some specific gameplay choices that you made that were not too ideal. First main takeaway is the main takeaway that I say almost every single Xenomorph match review. Please, 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 please break your turrets. It's a lot of your chases were really long because you were just choosing not to clean up your turrets. You gotta break them. If you're in a situation where, like I said, you can ignore the flames for one loop, get the down, and then deal with it, yeah, that's fine. But the times you were ignoring them and it were in situations that were detrimental for you, and the chases you end up subsequently having after where you didn't have your power were much longer. So make sure you're breaking your turrets, because you gotta stay in your crawling mode as much as possible if you're gonna be playing the Xenomorph. So break your turrets, please. Second, you were kind of like non-committal with your chases, which I think ended up hurting you a lot. It seems like you don't have like a good like internal logic when it comes to when I should commit to something and when I shouldn't. There were plenty of situations where there was somebody who was like dead to rights, you would hit him, and then they were going to a loop that wasn't particularly strong, but then you just kind of like see somebody else on your screen, you'd be like, oh, I can go chase them too. You know, I think your logic in your head is like, well, I have the Cane Summit, so I'm applying Mangled to everybody, right? Like that's great. Like Mangled as a status effect is not as great as it used to be. It's just not. It's only 70 seconds and they can just wait that out. So I think that, like, honestly, I think that your choice to consistently try to leave chase to spread more pressure, I actually ended up giving you less pressure, because especially near the end there, you ended up with a lot of people like death hook, but nobody dead, which is a very precarious place to be, minus 2 gens. Like I said, if you did not have the perks that you did, like if you didn't have 3 slowdown, you probably would not have won that because the game was that close. Where if you had committed some more chases early on, you could have maybe had one of those people dead earlier. Thank you for feeding the mods, David. Appreciate it. Honestly, in terms of your third takeaway, I know we covered it already, but like these add-ons are not fantastic. They're all right. They're in the B tier. They are okay, but the caveat is that they need to be specifically run to, like, with specific builds or other add-ons. Cane Summit's mostly for anti-heal, whether that be doing Cane Summit, the multi-purpose hatchet, or doing like a anti-heal build into Cane Summit. Makes sense to me. And then Parker's headband is to tie together with like molted skin, harpoon gun, but you're not tying those together. Like that's not the synergy you're creating. So these add-ons are just kind of like underwhelming on their own when not run with the correct synergizing add-ons. Targaryens as an S tier perk for Xenomorph, yeah. because you like barely get stunned as this killer. So you just tail attack people over pallets and get free vault speed just for free, essentially, since you don't get stunned that very often. Very fun. But yeah, those would be the main three I would look into adjusting for your future games.